Alright guys, welcome back. So in this video I'm gonna start off by tackling a few things that I didn't mention last time. So if I compile this, we can see we have this, this tree, like this. And you can see I've exposed the tree itself and it has 15 elements. I think I better put this down to 2 generations, so it's not going to be that much to look at. So I have 2 members in here, and each of these has a number of points. But the thing is, when you expand this, you can see each of these only have 1 point. So as you can see here, we're actually having way more points than we seem to have in the tree here. So the answer to that is, I'm not entirely sure why, but I guess it comes down to the way arrays work. So you can see the logic for adding our points, our turtle points, is I do this by taking this, the current branch, adding something to it, and then in my mind, I thought this would be good. But as you can see, it's clearly not. So what we need to do instead is actually to add this back to the array once we set it. So what we can do here is to get this and then set array element. So we need to set an array element back at the same index, the current index. And if we do this, let's see what happens if I just couple this up here and compile and expand again and see how many elements we have here. We still have only 1 element. So it's like whatever we set in here is being lost. Actually, we didn't, okay, fair enough. We forgot to set this one. Okay, let's try it again. Really trying to prove a point here. And still here, we can see we only have 1 point per branch. So instead, what we need to do here is we have this inside a function. So we're going to create a new local variable called local branch of type branch. And then I'm going to set this local branch let's see if I can remember how to do this. I'm going to set this, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. Instead of adding it to that array, I'm just going to get this out and set this as inside the local variable. Then I'm gonna break this open and I'm gonna add that point to that local variable. So add this point. And then finally, I'm going to take this local variable, and that's what I'm going to set into the array again. So it's kind of a weird workaround I need to go through in order to get this to work. So hopefully it does work. We haven't tested it. So let's test this out and see how many members do we have. We have 13 elements here. We have 3 elements and so on. So now we can see we have a number of points where before we only had one point in each of the branches. Okay, so that was one thing we need to take care of, because otherwise we really don't have those points, although we think we do. So okay, so let's continue and see how we can maybe set some, let's see what we should do. Maybe let's generate the SplineMeshes, because we do have some points now. So instead of these boring things here, let's generate some SplineMeshes. And first of all, let's get some kind of static mesh for this. I'm just going to use a cylinder for this. So I'm going to drag one out here. And let's scale this down a little bit. Actually, no, let's do something else. Let's go into, this is the basic one, geometry, cylinder. Okay, we're just going to make this one a bit smaller. And how many sides do we need? Well, 8 is probably going to be okay for this. And let's say the X and the Y, let's say 0.1, 0.1, maybe a little bit less, 5, something like this maybe. This looks like a nice little thing we can use. So I'm gonna go on that geometry. No, I am gonna go under brush settings and create static mesh and call this cylinder. So now we have a little cylinder we can use as inside our spline mesh. So it's kind of big though, so we'll take a look at that later. So anyway, if you come out here, we can see we have generated the L system, and now we have generated a tree, and then we should generate the spline meshes. So I'm gonna make a new function for that. And let's call it. Okay, and let's see, we need a spline to begin with. So add a spline here, and the spline, with the spline here you can do something like add spline point. You can also do set spline points, and this particular one takes an array of points. So unfortunately we don't have an array of points, we actually have an array of transforms. So unfortunately we need to somehow convert the points in our tree. So for each of these, by the way, that I should maybe mention that for each of the branches we need to generate one spline. So we're going to be creating several splines with spline meshes. So for each of these we're going to do something with that. And if we break this open, we can see we have this array, but we can't just plug it in here. So unfortunately, what I'm gonna do instead is to create a little converter function here. So I'm not entirely sure this is the best and most efficient way. I'm pretty sure it isn't, but and I guess you can do this in several ways. So yeah, anyway, this is just the way I'm going to do it. So let's call this class 2 array vector array. So I'm going to have a local variable in here called vectors, which is going to be an array of vectors. So set, and actually what we can do here is, well, it is empty to begin with. So what we're going to get in here is the transforms. Like this. So cast to this, and we need to do this for each of the branches, and then it's going to output this array here. Okay, so this is the general idea behind this. So let's see how we can implement this. So we do need to do a for each in here, I guess. And we need to add a vector. I'm just gonna split this one because I'm lazy. Add this one. Plug this in here and here, and I'm not gonna end here, it's gonna end here. So once it's done, it's gonna return that array. So it's basically taking all these transforms, adding them to the local array and outputting that array. Okay. So we need to set a few things for the spline in order to make this. So we actually need to make, how do you make a spline mesh? Well, you can drag this one out and say make, oh, it's gonna call make spline mesh, wait, no. What the? It's called add spline mesh. That's what it's called. Component. There we go. Okay, so we don't need to set this to anything really, but we need to set the start and the end for this. So in order to not have too many lines going back and forth, let's make a new local line mesh component and set that, because we need to do a few things with this. So first of all, we need to set start and end, and the start is going to be let's see, we have for each loop here, Actually, when we need to do something else. I forgot something. Of course, we need to do get spline points. That's what we need to do. Get number of spline points. And then we need to do a for loop on this. And it's gonna go from 0 to the number of spline points -2. And -2 comes from the fact that usually we subtract 1, but in this case we also need to subtract 1 more because we have 2 points, a starting and an end. So otherwise we're going to go out of bounds. So from here on we can get spline point, add, get spline, get no, not this one. I need to get location and tangent at spline points. This one. So this is going to be the first point, and the second point is going to be +1 for this. And then we're just gonna connect these up. Start point and the end point plus the tangents, and that's it to begin with. So we also need to set a static mesh with that cylinder we just created. So set static mesh. And I'm gonna uncheck this one, update mesh, because that's gonna do an update when I call it. But since I'm gonna set this at the end, it's not gonna update here. It's gonna force it to update here. So I'm just for now gonna set this to the cylinder, and I'm gonna compile this and save. So whoops, we have something, and it's not entirely looking correct as I wanted it to. And the reason for that is probably because I forgot to set the Z axis for this. So set, what is it called? It's called forward. Set the forward axis. And I believe this is the Z axis. You can tell by opening up this one and see if it's standing up and it's aligning up with the one of the axes, in this case the Z axis, then you gotta enter C here. So you can see now we get something looking like this. Let me just turn off all these debug spheres. And I believe I have this old string copied in somewhere. So let me just copy this one in, which I took from the wiki page here. Just save the copy of it. So if I type in 3, we can see now it generates something looking like this, which I don't really seem to be recognizing. Maybe it's because of the angle. Oh, there we go. So you can actually see, probably, hopefully, that it starts to look a little bit like what I have here, just mirrored, and it's ugly as fuck. But anyway, this is a very basic L system tree. Oops. And it's still flat. So I'm not gonna be improving on that in this video, but I'm gonna take a look at it in the next, maybe, and talk about some of the challenges with this approach here, because obviously there are gonna be some things we need to adjust. So I guess that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next. Bye bye.